McLaren and Honda split in a dismal, disastrous way a few years ago, but could they be heading for a shock reunion? The once great McLaren-Honda partnership was meant to take F1 by storm again when they paired up early in the V6 turbo hybrid engine era. It went terribly, and each has since looked better off without the other. Honda's engines are even breaking records and winning championships with Red Bull. But we're hearing there has been some early contact between McLaren and Honda about 2026 as both weigh up their very limited options. Honda officially quit F1 at the end of 2021 because of a company decision to focus financial and technical resources on developing carbon-neutral technologies for its automotive business. But as you'll have noticed, it is still hanging around in F1, providing engines to Red Bull's two teams until the end of 2025. Honda also started to have a change of heart about walking away, partly because it got a new CEO between deciding to leave and officially withdrawing, and partly because Honda only started to enjoy massive success with Red Bull after announcing it would quit F1. So Honda kept at least one eye on the 2026 engine rules, which could be seen as more compatible with its carbon neutrality goals. F1 will introduce new hybrid engines in 2026 with 100% sustainable and synthetic fuels, and the energy recovery systems increasing in power to 350 kilowatts compared to the current 120. At the end of last year, Honda formally registered its interest in these rules. It's one of 6 manufacturers that the FIA has gone as far as declaring will participate as a supplier from 2026 to 2030, along with Red Bull, Ford, Audi, Mercedes, Ferrari and Renault. That registration process is not thought to be a binding commitment and just means that manufacturers are involved in discussions around the rules. It essentially just sets up an easy entry should the manufacturers decide to proceed, and all but Honda have now done that. Once Honda's tune changed about staying in F1 after all, it was natural there were discussions with Red Bull about continuing working together, given their extremely good relationship and plenty of on-track success. But this was always complicated by the fact Red Bull had already gone down the route of taking charge of its engine future by investing heavily in a new facility to build its own in-house F1 engine for the first time. The creation of Red Bull powertrains, announced in February 2021, was Red Bull's way to prepare for life after Honda, because at that time it looked like Honda's participation could not be salvaged. Since then, Red Bull's focus has been to set itself up to be able to design and build its own V6 internal combustion engine and probably recruit assistance on the hybrid side. So while Honda could have collaborated with Red Bull powertrains for 2026, it would have meant doing so on Red Bull's terms, probably making a financial contribution, foregoing any real V6 input, and being a hybrid-only partner. Honda did not want to agree to that, but another manufacturer did. Last week, it was announced that Red Bull will work with Ford for the 2026 engine rules, bringing the US manufacturer on board to support the powertrains division and leaving Honda in the cold. Given Red Bull-Ford discussions would have taken place over the final part of 2022, it's likely that Honda registered its intent for the new rules, knowing full well any 2026 project wouldn't be with Red Bull. We'll come to the broader situation Honda is in shortly, but it most likely needs to find another team to build an engine for, and the two names that crop up most regularly are McLaren and Williams. And we understand there has been at least an initial contact between McLaren and Honda over the winter. It would be a stunning reunion given how this partnership previously went up in flames and was abandoned after just 3 rubbish seasons. Aims of being a world-beating force like in the late 1980s and early 1990s turned into no wins, no poles, no podiums, and McLaren-Honda became corrupted by division, blame and fallouts from 2015 to 2017. Since splitting, both McLaren and Honda have fared better. McLaren learned to look at its own shortcomings and recognised it needed a significant overhaul of its organisation and infrastructure. Honda was released to join the Red Bull family, where it refined its own working structure and balanced its ambition with better management. It found a much more cooperative and patient partner in its initial season working with just Toro Rosso, and enjoyed a similarly collaborative and respectful relationship with the Red Bull hierarchy too. McLaren and Honda needed to escape one another to sort themselves out. So would Honda's increased competency and McLaren's improved culture make working together possible now? And more importantly, would they be able to thrive together? The leadership in both companies is rather different to how it was at the end of 2017, and the way they work has evolved too. Some things will not be forgotten by the rank and file, disrespectful comments from when McLaren often threw Honda under the bus for example, but the decision makers may not care about that. And if both are short of alternatives, which they may well be, then the emphasis could be on looking past any lingering grievances and focusing on the mutual benefits. We don't want to get too carried away by the prospect because it's likely that McLaren Racing CEO Zak Brown is canvassing all the options available, as McLaren will probably want to firm up its direction for 2026 as soon as it can. For instance, we believe he's also been to the Red Bull powertrains facility, and it would seem logical to scope out the Audi setup as well at some point. Brown's former McLaren team principal Andreas Seidel is now CEO at Sauber and will be heading that Audi Works project, so there is a connection there, and there were previously discussions over Audi trying to partner McLaren. McLaren did flat out refuse to sell, but was more open to an engine supply deal. McLaren has also repeatedly stressed its satisfaction with current supplier Mercedes since that arrangement was revived for 2021. And last year, Brown also insisted he believes a team can win a title with a customer engine. But that hasn't happened in the V6 turbo hybrid era, and the fact is there are small but significant advantages to being a works team in terms of car and engine packaging and design, and also how the team is prioritised. Being a customer always means being lower down in the pecking order, which is why a full works partnership always appeals. Regardless of what happened in the past, that is something that Honda could offer that McLaren's other options, whether Mercedes or a new manufacturer like Audi or Red Bull Ford, could not. To take any discussion about Honda or a reunion with McLaren further, we need to know two things. What is Honda's preferred option, and does it actually have the means to do F1 properly at the moment? Whether McLaren is a serious possibility or not, Honda must decide whether it wants to go with that kind of engine partnership or supply arrangement again, or pick another route. It sounds like that still hasn't been decided, but last year HRC President Koji Watanabe suggested a different kind of program might be best. Its alternative options really are slim though. It's never seemed likely that Honda would go down the route of setting up its own team, despite a belief in F1 that it's possible, and buying into an existing one would require a financial commitment that Honda doesn't seem well placed to make. Should Honda identify a preferred way to return to F1 though, has it left it too late to ensure it can be ready for 2026? Though it continues to assist Red Bull's teams under the terms of its 2022 to 2025 agreement, the manner in which Honda's F1 operation may have been stripped back in Japan should not be underestimated. Sakura is understood to be running on something of a skeleton staff on the F1 side because, per the original reason for leaving F1, Honda has moved many engineers onto zero emissions projects for the automotive business. There are also issues like a lack of certain infrastructure, given Red Bull Powertrains has taken over the UK facility that Honda used to manufacture ERS components. It means Honda needs to recruit and retool its F1 operation as soon as possible to have a sensible timeline leading up to 2026. Really, it needs to be all systems go in the next few months. A decision therefore needs to be made imminently, but even if Honda does decide to commit, it may face hurdles. The new cost cap governing engine manufacturers for 2026 kicked in as of January the 1st this year, so any capital expenditure is limited. If Honda had made the decision last year, it could have invested more to ensure it had a fully functional F1 operation again without such restrictions. That just underlines some crippling long-term weaknesses for Honda in F1, a lack of planning and commitment. This has left Honda vulnerable, with less successful teams the only obvious options, and one of those being a partnership that failed so spectacularly and led to quite a few burned bridges just a few years ago. But Honda only has itself to blame. Its own actions have pushed its current super successful partner into a long-term plan that another manufacturer now stands to benefit from, and that is a very strange situation for the current title-winning engine manufacturer to be in. Thanks for watching this video. If you're interested in hearing more about McLaren Honda's terrible past, or what the Red Bull Ford plan has told us about Andretti's bid to enter F1 with General Motors, then check out one of these videos.